Hello everyone and welcome to the password lecture for Django level 5. In this lecture we will discuss the general setup to begin getting ready for user authentication on our website, and we will also talk about passwords in general and also discuss some additional library options for extra security. The first thing we need to take care of is setting up our ability to authenticate a user. And to do this, we need to use some built-in apps and make sure that they are under the installed apps list in settings.py file. So in your settings.py file of your project, remember we have that installed apps variable, which is a list of the application, and we have added our own application to that list. But in order to do user authentication, you need to make sure that these two applications are there, Django Contrib authentication or and then Django Contrib content types. And often these are already preloaded in that list for you, so you should not need to add anything, especially for a higher level of Django. Like in this course, we are using Django 1.1 at region. So in the latest Django, that might be changed. So you can check it by doing ChatGPT or by going to the latest Django version. Next thing we need to do is make sure we store our password safely, and this should go without saying. But again, never store password as plain text ever. Never store password as plain text. Okay. And I said that twice on purpose because you should never do that. Basically, if you are storing the password in plain text, not only is it vulnerable if someone hacks your database, but it's also a little unethical in the fact that basically any Django admin could come in and see the passwords. Alright, so what we are going to do is begin by using the default mm, this PBKDF2 algorithm, which uses an SHA-256 hash that's already built into Django, and that is already quite secure for most application. It really requires a massive amount of computing power to crack that hash, but if you want more security, you can upgrade to even more secure hashing algorithms, and Django makes it really easy. So as I mentioned, Django makes that process super easy. So we are going to show you how to use the script library and also the uh, Argon 2 library, which I believe was the 2015 winner of some sort of open source algorithm hashing context. There is more information on Django website about that. But in order to use these two even more secure hashing algorithm in your virtual environment, what you are going to do is pip install bc bcrypt. Okay, pip install Django Argon 2. So it may just say something like Django Argon 2 already found. Okay, so we will also show you how to do that in case you want a super secure hashing algorithm. And inside of settings.py, what we are going to do is pass in the list of passwords hashes, and you pass them in the order you want to try them. So if for some reason you don't have library support, maybe you uploaded your website into a server that's hosting and you forget to install decrypt. Well, don't worry, it's not going to give an error. It just will skip, decrypt, and then eventually fall back to the original hashing algorithm that's built into Django. And sometimes users will also try to use a very big password, such as the password 1223 456 like that, and you can also add in validator options to prevent a user from doing that, and we will keep things simple for now and only require a minimum length. But you can add in all sorts of validators, like you must use a combination of numbers, letters, special characters, minimum length, etc. Now that we have covered conceptually what the process is for setting up a password of Django, let's actually code through those steps to set up that password system. And then in future lecture, what we are going to do is add to this by setting.py on our modules to give you an idea of what the hashing process actually looks like. So let's get into, okay, all right. Before we actually get started with programming and Django, our password application, what I wanted to show you is briefly talk a little bit more about what an SHA has looks like. So here I am at a website that has this little hash calculator, and if you type in some data here such as letter, and returns back the actual hash that matches up with this particular piece of data. And you will notice that even if we change it in tiny bit, maybe a dot, I will get pretty much a totally different hash. If you click it again, it looks totally different. And the idea is there is no descriptive pattern here, even if you add in just a little bit of data. So again, it stands for Secure Hash Algorithm, was actually designed for the by the National Security Agency or the NSA, and it falls more under their mathematics than actual programming. Essentially, what it is a cryptographic hash function that can run on digital data, and the way it works is you pass in your data, it pass through the algorithm, it gets converted to hash, and then you can use this hash to compare to other input hash data. So what the user is going to do is they will input their password and we will be saving the hash for that. So if someone goes to our database and happens to crack it open and they steal all our data, well, they don't steal the user password, they only steal the user hash, and there is even more ways of securing this hash. So you can add things like salt to it to solve it. So there is a lot of things you can do. If a hash, for instance, a common practice, if you want to know if a piece of data was tampered with at all, you would have a known hash value of the original data and then an expected hash value there. So you could check what you believe to be tempered, run it through the hash algorithm, and if the hashes are any different, then you know someone actually modified or tampered with that data. And again, another key aspect of cryptographic hash function is collision resistance. We want to make sure that no two pieces of data would come up with the same hash. So that's also a key part of this mathematical function. And all of this falls a lot more under math than that computer science in general or programming. It's really heavy on math now. So definitely computer science and math overlap and huge amounts will combine. So don't get me wrong. This definitely is a computer science topic, but the actual way the hash works falls a lot more in their mathematics. So if you are interested in that, definitely check out the Wikipedia page or any other mathematical page. They are super interesting topics, but I just wanted to point that out that when we actually look at our user data using Django admin, we are going to see something that looks more like this, and then even more so as far as security, a lot of this will be censored to the Django admin interface. It's just so a bunch of dots there. So if you don't trust the Django admin, well, they would not be able to get the hash back either. And also the whole point is you can't come from this hash and get back the data at least not easily. So let's hop over to the this atom text editor and start working on this. All right. So in this atom text editor, you can do coding, or also in PyCharm you can use PyCharm also, you can use Visual Studio Code also. It depends on you. Okay, and here I am going to the Django level 5 folder, and I'm going to remember to activate my virtual environment here. So in atom text editor in this way. So now that virtual environment is activated, let's see cd into Django level 5, and then what I am going to do is call the Django admin tool and say start project. Okay, as like we have done before, and we will call this project learning underscore users, because that's basically we are going to be doing learning about users and user authentication with Django. And then we also start an application, and we can call that application basic app, just like we have been doing for a few of these projects. So let's go to Django dash actually, and let's see into that folder first, cd into learning users. Now call it Django admin and say start app, and then we'll call it basic underscore app, hit enter, and that should start off application to now. So if I expand this, I see my learning users, see my basic app, etc. And what I want to do first is go to settings.py. Okay, so we are actually going to be working with this quite a bit for this particular section of this course, a lot more than normal, but we are going to scroll down here, pass all of this stuff, and then here under installed apps, this is where you want to check that, and you make sure you have Django contrib admin already there. You also want to make sure that you have Django contrib off for authorization, contrib.auth and contrib.content types based on your project. So start app also you need to include. If for some reason you don't have them, feel free to add the settings.py file. And what we also want to do is add in our basic application. We'll say basic app and then save it. And again, whenever you add something to install the apps, you want to make sure that you actually run python's manage.py migrate. Hit enter, and what will make sure that those applications are registered to the entire project, and you should see a bunch of stuff like this, and that's applying all those changes. And then we'll also want to say python's manage.py make migration to your actual application. In this case it's basic app, so we'll run that good if it is does not detect any changes, and then save it. Just say python manage .py make or migrate, or it should say no migration to apply, but I always do that just to stay safe. um, so these are the installed app, make sure you have those there. And as I mentioned, we never want to store password as plain text ever. Okay, so we are going to do be doing is showing you how to actually pass in the different algorithms for hashing. And in order to use some of the more advanced algorithms, we actually need to install those libraries. So these libraries are so popular that Django pretty much support them almost out of the box. And sometimes they may even already be installed when you install Django, depending on what distribution you are using. But just to make sure we have them, the first one is going to be the script. So let's say pip install bcrypt. So that's bcrypt pip, and still be uh, bscript. Hit enter, and then that should install the crypt for you. So I'm going to jump forward in time until that's finished installing. Okay, that just finished for me overall. For my computer that took about 30 seconds, so it is not that long, or probably even less than that, maybe like 10 seconds. And then in brackets we want to say argan to close bracket, hit enter, and then it's also going to grab them. And okay, so you can see that it actually, I believe this one was already installed, so it should say requirements already satisfied. So yeah, so we already had a lot of these requirements satisfied, so you may find that as well. But there we go. Okay, so now we have those two ready to go. Then the next step is inside of settings.py we can pass in a list of the password hashes we want to try. So anywhere in the settings.py file, although I like to keep everything that has to do with passwords down here, we are going to do some stuff. So I'm going to collapse this directory tree, and there is actually usually a link here to more information about authorization, password, and validation, Django documentation. You heard me say it in million times, so it's fantastic. So definitely check out those links. But we are going to create a new variable called password underscore hash all caps, and this is where we actually pass in what we want to hash with. And then we'll put in our some brackets here, and then this is where we actually pass in a string of what all the password hashing looks like. So the basic ones, the default ones go like this. There, say Django contrib dot for authorization dot. Okay, for auth hashers. Okay, hashes dot, and then the name of the actual password has hasher algorithm, and the built-in one are P, pbkdf2 password. Okay, hasher. So that's one of them. And then the other one is with a higher level of bit, and then you can pass in the argon ones as well. Now this is a lot of strings to be typing. So to save some time, I'm actually going to just copy and paste all of these from the notes. So I would advise you to do the same. So, or you can definitely check this out if you take the link to the documentation. It actually has all of these as well written out for you as an example already. But basically what's going to happen is we are going to try with our most powerful hash, or the first, the argon to password hacker. So if for some reasons we don't have that installed on the server, then we'll try with the bcrypt password hasher. If for some reason the 256-bit version of decrypt does not work, maybe we try just the normal decrypt. If that still does not work, then we'll try built-in this one. If that still does not work, then we'll try to this one as well. So you basically have all these layers of password hashing security to fall back on. So the next part is the password validator. So if we scroll down here, we already see we have a lot of password validator ready to use for us. So we can say user attributes similarity, and basically what that does is you can't use your username inside your password. So if your username is like ZOSE, you can't use something like ZOSE special password as your password. Things like common password validators. So those are checks for some common password like 1 2 3, like that. Pass the word password, etc. Numeric password validator to make sure it is has numbers minimum length, and you can check the documentation for lists and examples of all the various types of password validators you can manipulate or ask for. So if you want a super secure site and you don't really trust your users to make good password, definitely use password validators a lot. Sometimes if you use too many password validators, they can be really annoying. So I'm sure you have been to one of those websites where you have to change your password every 6 months, and it has to have some crazy combination of special characters, numbers, and letters. That's totally fine if you want a super secure site, but if you want your site to be at least a little user friendly, then don't go overboard on these password validators. Really depend on so these validators really depend on where you want to balance yourself between user friendliness and security. So let me show you example of what this actually looks like. So we can see here that we have a list of what are essentially dictionaries where the name key relates to the actual password validation that you are using. So for example, here we have name, and then the password validations we are using here is minimum length. So what you end up doing is adding another key to this dictionary, and the key is options. And then inside of that you go to another dictionary of all the options that are available to you for the minimum length evaluator, and you can look at the documentation for the various options, but one of the most common ones, the minimum length, the key here is one of the options is minimum underscore length, and then you just pass in a number as the value of the minimum number of characters length. So in this case, let's say it needs to have at least 9 characters to be a password. So then we can save that, and then we have our password validation, again lots of options. So if you scroll up this original link right here, it takes you to the password validation page where they show you a bunch of options you can use. So that's really all we need to do for now as far as the setting up our password hashing and getting password validation. uh, Later on, we'll show you how to deal with password as far as the actual models. But what I want to do is just a little bit of setup for future lectures of this section of this course is our template directory or static directory, and something we have not talked about yet, the immediate directory. So let's scroll back up here to where it says base directory, and we are going to add in three directories or three variables really, template directory, and that's going to be on path join, and we are going to join the base directory with template. We have done this before, so save that, and then scroll down and make sure where it says template you also add in what you have just made the template dir. Okay, so save that, and if I expand my tree, I actually wanted to make sure that I have the template folder. So under the top level learning users here, I'm going to create a new folder and we will call it templates. Okay, then hit enter, and I'm also going to create two more folder. One we have seen before, when we have not we have seen before, so that we added a static folder, and that was to hold things like our css or our javascript static files, and that don't change images for your website. Okay, okay, so we have static and templates, and then another common folder you will have here is called media. And the difference between the static folder and the media folder is you will want to separate content that's static that you provided for your website versus content that may be static like an image that user provided for the website. So imagine that you are creating a user profile and they can upload a profile picture. Well, that picture should be saved under the media folder instead of under the static folder. So static is stuff that belongs to you as the website creator, administrator. Media is going to be stuff that more or less belongs to the users. So let's set that up as well. So we scroll back here to our base directory and our template directory. We are going to do a very similar process for the static underscore dir. That's going to be os path dot join, os.path.join, and here we are going to call again the base directory and join that with the static, and then we will do the same thing for media underscore uh, media underscore dir, and set it equal to os.path.join. And if you ever having any issues with settings as you are going through this section of this course, definitely check out the actual notes where everything already filled out for you and you can run. And you can check out and you can also contact us directly by seeing this video. So then scroll up all the way back to the bottom, because there is couple more things we needed to add here. As far as variables that Django is going to be looking for, we have that static URL, so that's ready to go. But we want to do is add in a static files directory, so we will say static underscore, okay, static files underscore uh, dirs, and then set it equal to list with just static directory, static dir. And then we also want the basically the same thing for those media directories. So we'll say media underscore dir root, media underscore root is equal to media underscore dir, correct? And then we'll also say media underscore url is equal to, well, say slash, just like we did for a static. Save that, and we'll hit up the settings file, settings.py file. We will save that, and one more time we start talking about logins, because we need to set up a login url in the settings.py file. But for now, we are ready to go. So hopefully you learned how to select different hashing algorithm for your password and set them up in your settings.py file. Thank you for watching this video.